Hi everyone, welcome back to episode 19 of Two Girls, One Crime. I'm Emily, this is Megan, and today we are doing a very interesting episode. We're talking about the Unabomber, and yeah, we're excited. Megan didn't know about this even though she's a Chicago native,
Yeah.
and I honestly, I knew about it and obviously I'd heard the name, but I didn't know all of the details. So, we're learning along with you guys, and yeah, Megan's going to take it away with some background on our main guy, Ted Kaczynski. We think that's how you say it, so we're sorry if
That's
I'm
how we
saying
say
anything
it.
wrong.
More so to the brother, or well, he's probably still alive, the brother of Ted Kaczynski, or anyone
Yes.
who is hardcore not fans, but
I'm not a fan.
enthusiast of this particular crime,
Yes,
Ted
yes.
Kaczynski. What he really did was started a 17-year bombing campaign. And the idea of this was to start a revolution against the industrial system. He killed a couple people, wounded a bunch. So that's kind of who this guy is. Emily's going to go more into the crime. But here's kind of his little backstory. So,
Yippee.
our guy, Ted, was born May 22nd, 1942, in Evergreen Park, Illinois.
Mhm.
He was described as a gifted student. He had an IQ of 157 at 10 years old, which is very high on the IQ scale.
Correct.
Between 1978 and 1995 was this bombing campaign, but it starts at an interesting place for our guy Ted. He, like I said previously, was considered a bright child, was incredibly intelligent, specifically in mathematics, and he enrolled at Harvard University when he was 16 years old. So he skipped a couple of grades, super duper smart, and he got his undergraduate degree there in 1962. He then went on to the University of Michigan to get his graduate studies in mathematics, and he ended up earning his PhD in 1967 and became an assistant professor at the University of California, Berkeley. So super, super smart guy. A couple things people highlighted throughout his life was that he was never really a social guy. He didn't have a lot of friends. He,
Mhm.
during this time in his life when he was going through school, all that sort of stuff, he developed a disdain for technology and he didn't enjoy the modern life of how technology was incorporated into everyday. And again, in 1970s, it wasn't really a huge thing. So if you think about how he would look at our society now, he probably would not be too pleased.
Correct.
Yeah, not too happy. So in 1969, he decided to leave Berkeley, and he moved to a couple different cities. But in 1971, him and his brother bought land in Lincoln, Montana, and they built this very small wooden cabin there. And he spent almost 24 years there. He was living in this cabin, and it wasn't just like cabin in the wood, no one was around. There was no heat, no electricity, no running water, and he wanted to live a life without modern technology was kind of his idea behind it.
Mhm.
So in this particular cabin, he did not so great stuff, which I'll leave Emily to get to, but keep this little cabin in mind. Lived there for a
Mhm.
lot of his life. That was kind of his hideout. In 1979, he moved to Chicago and took a job in his brother's factory.
Mhm.
And with that being said, that was kind of in some ways his cover, I want to say. And there wasn't a lot of news about him working at the factory for a long period of time.
Mhm.
But this is where things kind of escalated and how he started his 17-year bombing campaign in Chicago, Illinois, which Emily will dive into the actual background of that.
Yes. So, like Megan said, well, between 1978 and 1995, he mailed and hand delivered many bombs, which, like Megan said, killed 3 people, injured 23 others. The main thing that he kind of did was he never left any fingerprints on them, and he always left like misleading clues inside the bombs or like around them, so nobody could figure out who he was. Um, so, the first bombing was mailed directly to a man named Buckley Christ. He was a professor at Northwestern in Chicago. So on May 25th of 1978, a package with his return address was found in a parking lot at the University of Illinois Chicago campus. It was sent back to his house, obviously, because it had his return address, which he decided to contact campus police because he didn't send the package originally. This police officer named Officer Terry Marker opened the box and it ended up exploding on him. Thankfully, it just left him with minor injuries, but that was a little bit crazy, and that was the first bombing. So we already kind of see that a lot of them were him sending packages to campuses of colleges, to professors mostly, and with their return address. So, second bombing was about a year after the first one. It was again to a Northwestern University campus. This one was left inside of a cigar box and left on a table, which a grad student named John Harris found and opened. Again, led him to have some minor injuries. So this is where I feel like it kind of takes a step up, and it's not just campuses. The third bomb was on an airline. So in 1979, there was a bomb on board an American Airlines flight flying from Chicago to Washington, D.C. Thankfully, they made an emergency landing before it got too bad, because originally the bomb released smoke on the airplane, which made the pilots land early, thankfully, because authorities said that it had enough power to obliterate the plane.
Yeah,
So thankfully they made an emergency landing. What did you say?
It was like a smoke bomb.
Yeah. So thankfully they landed before it got too bad and actually exploded and hurt a bunch of people. So the fourth one was also sent to a pilot named Percy Wood. When he opened it, he got cuts and burns all over most of his body. So this was kind of one of the more severe cases of injuries. So again, he left a lot of fake clues in the bombs, and right now, like Megan said, he's kind of targeting these professors and people of things that he does not like modern technology and everything like that. So there's a few more. We're going to kind of just do a brief overview because it is kind of crazy. In 1981, again, a package was left on the University of Utah's campus with a BYU professor's return address. Since everyone kind of knew what had been going on in Chicago, this was brought to the police station and defused by the bomb squad, thankfully. A couple more were sent to professors from Vanderbilt, UC Berkeley. All of them left minor injuries, thankfully. In 1985, John Hauser, who was a graduate and captain of the U.S. Air Force, was sent a bomb, which made him, unfortunately, lose 4 of his fingers and, the vision in one of his eyes. So that's definitely a bit worse of injuries there. Also in 1985, a biology and animal psychology professor named James McConnell and his research assistant named Nicholas Sweno were both also severely injured from bombings, or bombs that were sent. And in late 1985, a store owner was killed from a bomb. So this was one of the first killings. And another man, his left arm was severed. Jeez, I'm struggling with my words. And 200 pieces of shrapnel were sent into his body, which is
That's
so bad.
Crazy.
Yeah. So this kind of started him being found. He was seen dropping this bomb off, and this is where sketches of him start to circulate, which is maybe why what I'm about to say, he took a 6-year break. So in 1993 he started up again. So I don't know if that's because photos of him or sketches of him were circulating. I don't know if maybe that's why he took a break. Who really knows? But there's a little bit more, and then we'll continue on. So after a 6-year break in 1993, a bomb was sent to Charles Epstein's house in San Francisco, California. He lost some fingers. In 1994, an executive named Thomas Moser was killed after opening a bomb that was sent to his house also. So again, a lot of these people that he was targeting seemed to be professors or people who were specializing in things that he did not like. And yeah. So a little bit about this manifesto that we're going to talk about is in 1995, Kaczynski mailed multiple letters to the media. kind of talking about his goals and demanding newspaper space for this essay that he wrote that was like 35,000 words. He said he would stop the terrorism if this demand was met of him having print space. There was obviously a lot of controversy around if this essay or what he's written should actually be published. But the attorney general was like thinking that it was best for public safety to have it published. Um, After Kaczynski found out that he was going to be published, he decided that he would have to plant one more bomb intended to kill before that they or after it was published. So not good. But this is kind of where we're going to talk about the brother because we know that like a typewriter was used to write this manuscript, and a lot of the time he referred to himself as like we or FC, which stood for Freedom Club, and in his manifesto there were a lot of like irregular spellings and hyphenations that were pretty specific to him, which is kind of where the brother and everything else comes into it.
Yeah. This one's actually kind of
Writing
sad because
stuff.
I feel kind of bad because the
I
brother,
know.
what I was reading, seemed like he was a really good person who actually did care about his brother. So, David Kaczynski is the brother's name, and around the time all of this was happening, apparently him and his wife had suspicions that his brother was the Unabomber. They didn't know for
Mhm.
sure, but for a while they were just kind of more so thinking that brother's acting a little weird. He is not his, and there was, we'll get into it a little bit, but there's no real normal self. Um,
Mhm.
but it wasn't, he was just acting strange. So, really, what got him caught was David Kaczynski said that when he read the manifesto, there were elements of his brother's writing that he noticed were very similar.
Yeah.
And kind of after already having an inkling that he was involved in this somehow, he ended up contacting federal investigators
Mhm.
about his suspicions, what he thought, that sort of thing. This led investigators to kind of look into who was Ted Kaczynski, where was he living, and at this particular time, Ted Kaczynski was at their Montana cabin, the one in the middle of the woods. So
Mhm.
investigators went there. They ended up getting a search warrant, and they arrested him on April 3rd of 1996 for connections to the bombings.
Mhm.
When they entered the home, they found several items that kind of already convicted the guy, but it was bomb parts. There were a bunch of journal entries describing the different targets, why he was going after them, that sort of thing. There was also handwritten drafts of the manifesto.
Mhm.
So there was all of that in there that kind of led them to be like, yeah, you're our guy.
Yeah, I
So,
do feel so bad for David and his wife because it's like, oh, obviously you're doing this for like the greater good of like the world and like the country, but also like it's your brother. Like,
um, so yeah, I also feel bad for David because
mhm.
it sucks that that's how it went down and that he was the one who ultimately put his brother behind bars. But
Yeah,
during our frequently asked questions section, we will get into how his brother did a lot for him during that trial.
yeah.
Um, yeah. So after that, since there were multiple locations in which these bombings occurred,
Mhm.
he was arraigned in California and New Jersey, and these
Mhm.
were because of the three fatal bombings that occurred. So the rest of them were included in the trial, but they weren't the main part.
Mhm.
So on January 22nd of 1998, he pled guilty to the charges against him. This was in exchange for a life in prison without the possibility of parole,
Mhm.
and this was also to make sure that he would not get the death sentence. So
Mhm.
he never went through a jury trial or anything of that nature. They never got to hear why he did what he did or anything of that nature. And I know this was in California. I believe New Jersey ended up dropping everything because they were like,
Mm.
well, he already has life in prison. I don't know if New Jersey has the death penalty. So,
I don't think so.
yeah, so then it's like they didn't really have a huge reason anymore. The families got justice because he was going away for life.
Yeah.
So either way, the outcome wouldn't have been crazy different.
Hmm.
After he was convicted, he started his sentence in a supermax prison in Colorado.
Hmm.
It's really funny, but he befriended the World Trade Center bombing and Oklahoma City bombing perpetrators while in prison. So he
What
made
people to become friends with? Like, out of all people, him and those bombing people really, they connected.
he just really, really wanted to be their friend for whatever reason.
Like, what?
So yeah, they were friends.
Yeah.
He
Yep.
he was also a person of interest in the Tylenol murders of Chicago, which we have not talked
Hmm.
about. But
Yeah. We should talk about that. But also, like, he agreed to send DNA to the FBI in this case, and they were like, no. Like, I don't know if he was like a real person of interest. I just found that interesting because it was around the same time, and who knows? But he actually did agree to send his DNA in to like clear himself, so who knows? But we could talk about that one. That one would be
yeah, that would
interesting.
be a good one. We'll
Hmm.
circle on back to that. We'll leave that one a mystery for you all. And then
Yes.
in March of 2021, he was complaining of, and apologies for those who may be a little weirded out by this, rectal bleeding, and he was diagnosed with rectal cancer. He ended up being transferred to a medical center in North Carolina and received biweekly chemo treatments.
Hmm.
In March of 2023, his health began to decline. His treatment wasn't working. And in June 10th of 2023, at 12:23 in the morning, he was found unresponsive in his cell after he hung himself. He had no pulse and had very low blood pressure until he died at 8:07 in the morning. So he is no longer
Hmm.
with us. He was not sentenced to death, but he did end up dying by suicide, which this guy is so interesting because it's like
Yeah.
in in when we talk about his trial, for one of the questions that a lot of people had, this is very interesting, but he was not the guy who wanted to say, "Oh, I want to plea insanity" or anything of that nature.
Right.
He was
Right.
pretty much against that.
Yeah.
So some of this stuff is wild.
It is. Yeah. It's crazy, and we have a lot of frequently asked questions because like this is such an odd case. So we'll get into some of those. Um, One that I thought was interesting was why was he called the Unabomber? He didn't just do like one. At first, I was like, oh, Uno is one. So I was like, oh, one bomb. Like, no, it stands for like UN universities and airlines because that's what he targeted. So that was like the FBI's code, like Unabomb, and then the media kind of added on the ER for like bomber.
See, I
Um,
get that. I'm gonna be honest, it's not super clever, but
no, no. I also like don't think that they were obviously expecting it to like go on for that long. So like maybe they would have come up with a more cool
maybe
name. I don't know,
they wish
but
years.
yeah, who knows?
But the fact that this went on for 2 decades, pretty much, and guy was just in Montana making bombs, and
I just like don't understand how obviously I know that like he didn't put his return address as the obviously actual return address, but it's like how did he never get caught besides that one time like someone saw him place the bomb like on the storefront like steps? Like how did nobody see him put anything on like any university campus or like literally anything? Like how was there only one
so if
sketch?
you
It's
see a
so
picture
weird.
of him, he looks like the most obscure guy. Like you would not picture him to be on a college campus.
Right. Like I'll pull up a like he's really scary looking.
He's very creepy.
Trigger warning.
Like he doesn't look like the type of guy where I would see him on the street and I would say, "Oh yeah, he
He
looks
goes to Northwestern.
like he
He
goes."
goes to whatever.
And
No.
to be fair, he is a very intelligent guy, but
Correct.
his look is not, and that's me stereotyping, but still, I would kind of be more suspicious if anything.
Well, he also like was pretty old. Like he wasn't college aged at the time, so it's like, why are you on a college campus
Yeah,
right now?
it makes
Like,
it makes no sense.
yeah. Anyways, so that definitely was a little bit weird, and it's crazy how high his IQ was at such a young
It is
age.
crazy. I mean, he went to Harvard at 16 years old.
I didn't even go to Harvard at 18
No,
years old.
no. So, guy ended up getting a undergrad degree at Harvard. Like, that's insane.
Yeah, that's wild. We talked a little bit about this. Also, Megan talked about this, but how was he caught? His brother and his brother's wife read the manifesto, and like we said, there were a lot of like phrases and patterns that um, Ted used in his personal letters that just seemed a little too similar. And since they already had some suspicions, it made them realize that he was the one behind it all, which is wild. I can't even imagine that.
Imagine you're reading a letter from your brother and then you're reading the manifesto and you're just like, oh, this is really similar. What's going on here?
Oh gosh, yeah, no, scary. I don't like it.
So the next question is, how did his family deal with this? There's not much discussion on how his parents dealt with it or if they were alive at
Mhm.
the time, but his obviously his brother did report him, but he did
Mhm.
try to get his brother out of the death penalty while he was going through the trial. So he was in court all the time. He was just trying to help his attorneys see what he could do. And on top of that, his brother did end up writing a memoir, and I don't know if he's someone super important in the community or if he just wrote this memoir because he is the brother of the Unabomber. But
Yeah.
he tried to give readers some insight into what Ted Kaczynski was like from his eyes and from a brother perspective rather than, oh, he was just the scary Unabomber who wanted to kill everybody. He
Yeah.
really did try to portray him in a better light and give an idea before of who he was before this entire situation came into play, which I thought was very unique. And for somebody who did commit not the best crimes,
Mhm.
like I think it's very cool that his brother did try to support him throughout
Mhm.
his time before prison and in
Yeah.
prison.
I do think it's interesting. Like he obviously is the one who called the FBI about his brother, but he also, like you said, is writing this story to be like he hasn't always been a bad person, like that type of thing. So I feel like that's honestly pretty I don't know, impressive, I guess, because I feel like you're either defending your siblings or whatever till the end, or I don't know. I think it's just cool how he helped everybody else by not letting this continue, but he also like is still sharing his brother's past,
I agree.
I guess.
100% agree. Um, the next question is, why did he target universities and technology related people? So, like we
Mhm.
said at the beginning, he believed that the idea of modern industrial society and technological development was destroying human freedom and autonomy. He was very much against this. I don't know where this core belief came from. Through a lot of psychologists that I was reading about, they believed that he possibly was dealing with some type of paranoia, something of
Mhm.
that nature, where this idea just got in his head and it stuck in there. So, with that
Mhm.
being said, he associated the individuals he was targeting with technological advancement, even though maybe those individuals weren't necessarily responsible. They, in
Mhm.
some way, shape, or form, for example, the engineer at the beginning,
Mhm.
somehow had a connection or was,
He thought they were like feeding into what he didn't
yeah,
believe
was
in.
encouraging this idea. So that is why he targeted the people he did, not because of who they were, but more so because of the part they played in his idea of
Right.
technological advancement.
Hmm. Yeah. Wild. And this kind of like piggybacks off of it. I feel like I'm in school. But like, why did he leave his academic career? And like, kind of like Megan said, obviously we know that he was rejecting all this like modern technology, modern society, and so this kind of forced him, I guess, to eventually abandon this career. Like Megan said earlier, he moved to Montana and tried to live a life of no technology, no modern society, in the middle of nowhere, highly self-sufficient type of lifestyle. So,
Part of me does
really,
wonder if he took the job with his brother in order to get financial security
mhm,
to make
mhm,
money for these bombs.
mhm.
Because eventually I would guess that the guy probably ran out of money and needed more, but
Right.
also Montana and Chicago are very far away from one another, so who knows?
Yeah, I don't know. And it's weird to me, like, why would he take that 6 year break also? Like, what was he doing during that?
No, no clue. I wish we would know, but we have no clue.
I know. Wild. Um, so another one is like, why wasn't he caught for so long? Like we said also earlier, he was very careful about not having any of his fingerprints in any of the bombs. He also, like I said, would put a lot of clues that were very misleading. So he definitely tried to maintain his like anonymity. Can't say that. He lived, like we said, very remotely, had very little social circles, contacts.
Contact. Yeah, contact.
So he really didn't have a, group of people besides his family, and he lived in the middle of nowhere in
Also,
Montana.
if you think about it, the people that he was targeting, they weren't, it's not like they all knew who he was. It was these
Right.
people he probably, and the internet wasn't really a thing at the time, but people he knew of in his academic circles who,
Yeah.
oh, this person does this, or, and somehow got into contact with them
Hmm.
and then sent it. So it wasn't even like, oh, his entire friend group died. It was, oh, these random people are just being killed. Why?
Right. And I
So
feel like we've talked about a lot of murders where it's like they either know the people beforehand or they somehow like lure them in. So I feel like this is an interesting one. I feel like one that we haven't really talked about before where it's like it's not really about the person, it's about like their job in a way. So I think that's interesting just to be like he didn't know any of these people. It was more so what they were doing with their lives that he was not okay with.
no,
Um,
100%.
but yeah, so he kind of, like we said, there was barely any evidence that could connect him to it, no fingerprints, nothing, and he was only like really seen that one time. So this helped him get away with it for quite a while until he was seen and the sketch started coming out. So
Hmm. So
crazy.
the final question is, did he claim he was insane? And like I said previously, this was a huge proponent of the trial, or they
Mm-hmm.
wanted it to be an idea of looking at his mental state and how that affected what he was doing. But
Mm-hmm.
he was strongly against being portrayed as legally insane, and he wanted to control how
Mm-hmm.
his defense characterized him. So he wanted people to know why he was doing what he was doing, and he also didn't want people to think, oh, he was just crazy, that's why he was doing it. He truly wanted to be told, no, 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 this is, I'm doing this for this reason, and I had full control over it, which I found to be very fascinating. But it sounds like
Mm-hmm.
he was pretty cooperative with the police.
Yeah, I do also find it like very interesting because he clearly wanted people to know that like he was smart enough to get away with all of this for so many years.
Yeah,
Like and he
it,
wasn't just like legally insane or like going crazy. Like he really just was I think he got like what's the word? Like enjoyment out of getting away with it for so long.
he probably did. And on top of that, it is like, well, not that he should have done it, but it is very, in some ways, impressive that he got away with it for so long. So part of me is like, okay, you were already caught. I feel like I would just fess up to the police and be like, yeah, I was insane, because either way, getting away with it for almost 20 years, that's a long time to get away with something like this.
Yeah, and he probably would have continued to get away with it if his brother
I
didn't.
had no idea, yeah, and didn't
Yeah.
notice.
Which is also like kind of crazy. Like how many more of would there have been? Like I don't know. And again, like if he was still around now, like hopefully they would have obviously found him by now. But like we said earlier, he would not like the world that we're living in with all the technology today. Hey Titus.
Titus is literally, I hope all the viewers know, he picks up his bone, dips his head back, and throws it on the ground. Like, he wants everyone to know, Titus, come here. Come here, Titus. Come here, buddy. Come on, come up. I want you to say hi to the podcast now that you're. Come on. Come here. So obviously, this could be the positive ending. Okay, fine. Don't touch me then. This could be
Fine.
the positive end to our podcast that we have all been looking for. But apparently,
Titus says thank you for listening.
Titus says thank you for listening. Oh yeah, come up now. You can come up now. Come here. Okay, no, never mind. So
Pranked.
here he comes. Come on, come on, come on. Come on. I want you. Okay, he's running away. I really was praying that he would come say hello for the podcast.
That's okay. Maybe next time.
There he is. He says hello. Come on, buddy. This is Titus, everyone.
Hi, Titus.
Titus says to
Look at him.
Titus says to not be so sad and that crime isn't such a horrible thing because if you listen to it and learn about it, you can prevent it from happening to yourself and loved ones.
So true. Yep. Guys, I'm going to show you what Megan sent me on on Instagram earlier, and then this will be a fun way to end the podcast.
Oh, well, maybe I'm thinking something differently, but we'll find out shortly enough.
The one that says, let's start a podcast, and then us after the first episode. I always am so scared to research because I'm like, we're looking up like this person's background, this person's crime, frequently asked questions. I'm like, we probably look crazy to our little phone FBI agents, but that's okay.
We probably do. But what I was going to say was we are going to do something fun, a little glimpse for maybe the viewers. So we're going to be talking about a case up in the air that has been going, I would say, viral for at least my feed, or has been something that's been pretty prominent in the news about, ouch, stop scratching my feet, about a girl or a woman in Massachusetts, actually. So, anyway, then, yes. So, we are going to be talking about this case next week, and obviously the case isn't concluded, but we're going to start to do updates, maybe every episode at the very end, just being like, here's an update from this most recent case, just to give you guys something to follow along with us as we go through. And
especially because so much is happening. So much has happened, so much is continuing to happen, so I feel like we're going to need, unless we wait and then the whole episode's going to be like 4 hours long.
And on top of that, then it's going to be probably like 5 years overdue. And if we think about the Kit Reed one and how long that took us, it's going to be the same thing. So we're going to start that new little thing. We'll keep you guessing on what the case.
Our 20th episode next week.
We're going to start to add that in there, and it's going to be so fun.
Yay! Thank you guys for listening and watching wherever you're watching. Look at or wherever you're listening. Check out our TikTok and subscribe and follow us and everything. And we can't wait. Next week's going to be juicy.
Really juicy. And again, feel free to always leave suggestions on things we could do better.
Yeah.
Or on different cases that you guys would like to hear about, or just even little sprinkles of things that we should start to do research on our own. But like Emily said, juicy one next week, so make sure you tune in. And appreciate all of you being around for almost our 20th episode.
Like, that's so crazy, actually.
We've been around for way too long. We're old now.
That's like 5 months, right?
Pretty much, right? I think so. When we have our 6 months, we're going to do a party episode. We should talk about a case.
We'll have to come up with a really good one. Comment below good ones that you want us to talk about for 6 months, because we'll do whatever you want us to do for 6 months.
Literally. So yes, please make sure you're commenting and all those fun things, and we will see you all next week.
Yes. Yay. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.